This is Only the Strong Survive, a podcast powered by Kahn Media, where we dive deep into the world of business, leadership, and innovation. I'm your host, Dan Kahn, and I'm honored to have you join us today. So, let's get ready to learn some survival skills together. Welcome back to Only the Strong Survive, a podcast powered by Kahn Media and Tread Agency. I'm your host, Dan Kahn. Today, I am joined over video by someone I work with every day and have a lot of respect for. Krishan Udvadia is the head of digital marketing here at our agency at Kahn Media. He leads our paid digital strategy across multiple platforms, brings a really thoughtful, data-driven approach to how brands show up online. And in this episode, we're going to talk to Krish about the current state of paid digital marketing, what it takes to build campaigns that actually work, how brands can cut through the noise in an increasingly crowded space. And we're also going to dig into how AI is even rewriting the rules of performance media. So Krish, thanks for making the time and coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime I get to use this audio setup is a good day. So
I mean, normally you just have this like really over-engineered system for talking on Zoom calls. So
yeah, it's a little overkill, but well, what's the point?
To sort of start things off before we dig into the digital marketing stuff, and I think we're going to get pretty deep into the weeds if that's okay. First, let's get some background. So as we were building our DM team, you were one of the early hires, and you showed up in a couple of non-traditional ways. You showed up both with you didn't have a digital marketing background, and you also showed up physically in a sort of untraditional way in the vehicle you drove. So give us some background. Have you always been a car guy? What started the whole car thing for you?
It's a interesting point because being Indian, majority of us aren't really big car people, but my dad was, I think, interested in cars and just talking about it a little bit. So every time in the parking lot when we were kids, he would point to cars and we would point them out. But I think when I really got into it was in high school. I was in a physics class. Those were pretty much my only 5 friends in my group. And they all had random cars like a Camaro, an 80 Camaro, an Austin Cooper, an MGA, and then a Jeep XJ, random, the most weird selection. And every day after school or weekends, we go work on something on each of those cars. And I think after that, that's when things really cascaded into wow, there's more than just looking at Ferraris or Lamborghinis or cool cars or M3s or whatever. And there's more to it than just the surface level. And I really want to get into it. And having that engineer background, I think I wanted to start tinkering with stuff. And that has definitely avalanched into some other stuff. But I think it stemmed from my dad. And then it really, my main friend group back in high school really kicked it off.
What was your first performance vehicle?
My Evo.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you are a Mitsubishi guy and you've had a few of them. So tell us what you got going on. What'd you pull up to the interview in?
I had a Prius. And then after that, I always wanted an Evo 9 or any Evo 8 or 9. My parents had gone to India and they told me if I wanted to get a car, I should go get it myself. And so when they were in India for 3 weeks for a wedding, I bought my Evo. When they were gone, I went to go pick them up at the airport at LAX in Bradley International, and it was cammed. So all you hear is the lobe of the cam under the tunnel. 2 weeks later, we gutted the whole thing, took it apart. And I always had this dream of building the Cyber Evo, which was a car that was raced in Japan for World Time Attack in Sydney. I believe 3 years later is when I finished painting the car, wide body and caging it. And it was my only car at the time. So naturally, I had to drive it to the interview. And I drove it there in all its glory, caged, loud, external wastegate, all the shebang. The full livery was on it. And
giant over fenders,
massive wheels, tires. That was the only car I had, so I had to bring it. So yeah, I just came in my race car and hope for the best.
Nice. And then you had at one point you had the race car Evo and a street car Evo, and then you sold that, and now you're dailies. You've joined the rest of the Kahn Media crew with a BMW.
Yeah. And then I had a FD RX-7 in between while I had those 2 Evos, which definitely stressed me out more than anything in my entire life. So we offloaded that, but that was a dad and son project. But yeah, I had my 2 Evos, and then I got a 2011 M3 and sold my streetcar Evo so I could have a little bit more luxury and heated seats in my life.
And you most recently, in just the last couple of months, made a big move too, right?
Yeah, I just moved in with my girlfriend to Lake Tahoe or Reno, Nevada. That was literally I think 5 weeks ago. So first time I ever moved a community college from Westlake to Northridge, and this was a very big leap. Yeah, now I'm over here with no income tax.
Very good. All right. So when you came to work for us, you had a background, you kind of referenced it a minute ago. It was not in digital marketing. You were an engineer, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I was going to school for electrical engineering for about 3 years. I had an internship at a company down in Camarillo as a test/electrical engineer. I ended up joining on full time. So I left school and worked at this company. We were a defense company for aerospace. We worked on projects like F-22, F-35, Global Hawk, and Predator drone were the 4 big projects that I worked on. Basically building giant OBD2 scanners for airplanes and aircrafts for their avionics and just any wiring harnesses in the airplane. 2 years after that, I moved into the telecom side of engineering, so fiber optics. So I was there for about 1.5 years. Then COVID hit, and then got laid off. But yeah, I was all an engineer from pretty much college to 3.5, 4 years after that.
So you showed up here, car guy, engineer mindset, not a lot of background in digital marketing. You picked it up very quickly. You now run that whole department. You definitely take a very sort of different approach to the construction and execution of digital marketing campaigns. And I think it's why, and I'm going to brag on you a little bit here, that we can build campaigns that just kick everybody else's ass. I mean, our ROAS numbers are very high. We've won a bunch of awards. Very proud of you guys on what you've built. You also have a very non-traditional background. Most media buyers have some sort of advertising degree and came from a big agency. So what do you think makes you different?
The simplest way I can put it is if you look at an engineer's resume versus a marketer's resume, they're two very different. One's very cut and dry, and the other one, it's visibly appealing. As an engineer, I mean, especially with the first gig in aerospace, being a test engineer for 4 hours a day in a lab, we had to go through the certain criteria, whether it's like certain test points on a board. So I think applying that kind of day-to-day helped a lot because I just broke it down to its simplest form and just worked at it step by step. So the way I do it is I break it down each point at a time, make sure we tackle it from the very start, from the big scope, and then hone in on it, on what we're working on. I think that provided a lot of structure in the way I run things, I guess, especially when it comes to managing or building a campaign. Like if someone has a question, we want to make sure we get to the root of it and then grow from there and solve that question. In that regard, I think engineering really helped me for strategy, plus for just the layout and like how efficiently we can build a campaign and how quickly we can. Because if we eliminate all the random stuff that's happening in the background and we can just focus on that, then it really helps.
Going from pretty big companies with a lot of employees where you're an engineer to a small marketing agency with, 30 employees and a lot of people spinning a lot of plates, I'm sure was a cultural shift. What was that like?
Well, working as an engineer, I think I was 19 when I started or 18 when I started. So being this 18-year-old kid who was working with a bunch of dads at the end of it, it was very interesting because maybe I matured really quick or something. I don't know, but my entire friend group was a bunch of like 40, 50-year-old Asian guys for the most part, which was really cool. I mean, I love them all. I still talk to some of them now. Going from that to here has been pretty much a 180. I mean, being a car person, being the age I am, I didn't really work with anyone that was into cars or the same age. So I didn't really have anything to relate to. I didn't have any kids or a family. I was just a kid trying to get by. Coming here was obviously scary at first when you start, at any job. You don't know what you're getting yourself into and who you're going to meet. But just really quick, I think over like 3 to 6 months, I became friends with pretty much everybody. It's a small group, but it's a good group and everyone's really inviting. Everyone's car people, so I can chew anyone's ear off, whether it's Craig, our copywriter, or if it's Cam on my team. I mean, we can talk about cars, watches, anything. So it really helps. It's not really the age that was the problem. I think it was the passion that was lacking in the other jobs. So I think allowing to express that and just talk about it really helps and was really nice. It was a nice change of pace.
On the other side of it, I think it also helps that you're an incredibly nice guy. I think you are probably among the most beloved people on the entire staff. So thanks for being you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's get into some of the marketing stuff. So I guess first, tell me about your role here. Like, what does head of digital actually mean day to day? What's your day look like?
Any day starts with just checking the emails, making sure there's no fires happening or any issues going on. Then it kind of starts from making sure Cam and Wilfred on the team are okay. They know what they're doing day to day. Cam usually is on top of it, so I don't have to really worry about that as much. But if we have bigger projects or build-outs happening, I just like to know the statuses of those at the beginning. Once that happens, we work on account strategy, or if there's a new account being onboarded, I want to make sure I know enough about that account before I make a campaign strategy or an outline about it. So I do enough research to understand the product or the mission or and who they are. Once that's complete, then we usually do a couple of marketing outlines. I touch base with Luke and Diana sometimes, making sure the accounts are okay. If there's anything happening, anything I can help with, make sure those are good on the paid side. And then sometimes we get into like actually doing the build out. Sometimes, I've been a little bit removed from that side, but it is nice to come back in and build some stuff. So if Cam needs help or Wilfred needs some assistance, then I can jump in and, fire away a campaign pretty quickly, depending if it's on a sale campaign or just like a traffic campaign. If I can jump in there and help with some time that I have spared, then that's good. Go-to. I don't think being disconnected all the time is good. I think kind of hopping in there, making sure I see whatever Facebook updates in the ads managers or Google or whatever platform we're building stuff on is nice to make sure I'm refreshed with. Otherwise, if I get too disconnected, there'll be too many changes happening and then I won't know what's going on. And then it's just talking to the other teams if we're working on like the Kahn Media stuff, talking to Ali and Nate, or learning things on how the biz dev process works and talking and picking Beth's brain about onboarding the new clients that she's working with and talking to the creative team. So Morgan and Michael that run their respective departments, making sure that we're doing the best we can to make sure the ClickUp tickets are accurate or if they need more or less information. So just trying to make sure everything's efficient, always messing around with my beloved spreadsheets. I think automating a lot of stuff.
There's the engineer. There he is. Okay.
Yeah. And talking to Kelly, making sure there's no billing issues, because we're kind of the only department that really deals with money, just making sure everything is accurate as possible without any human error is slowly going to help us in that regard too, and making sure the department's efficient with the spreadsheet, which I created a task list for.
When people hear, there's so many words for it: performance media, paid media, advertising, digital marketing, digital media. It's all kind of code for the same thing, which is basically when you put up an organic post on social, you just post it and hopefully people interact with it and share it. The paid side is essentially you're building either building a campaign on the back end and deploying it, or you're boosting a post that was created, right? So, and then on the search side, right, it's paying to be at the top rather than trying to get it through SEO. What are the levers that make a campaign perform? When you go into a conversation with a client, like what are the levers you can pull to say, okay, like here's what we're going to do, here's the approach we're going to take? Because at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're trying to help the client sell stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
Selling services, selling products, selling something. So what are the levers you pull to make sure they're getting what they need to get?
Yeah, it all starts with making sure we understand what the client needs. They can sell a variety of things, but if they just want to sell, for example, Ford bumpers, and we need to know that information before we start building stuff, then that's step one for us. Once we understand what the client is asking for and would like help with, we kind of dive into it. So it obviously depends on budget, but for each platform, it really helps to know, obviously, the industry, because you need to know who to target, what that target group looks like. And then within there, another step in between is interest, right? So Facebook is majority interest targeting, which you will then need to know if I have a BMW M3, Turner Motorsport is probably going to be an interest that this group follows or likes or interacts with. So we should probably know that to put that in there. Knowing your audience, knowing what the customer needs are the two big things. With Google, it's a different animal, right? Because you got YouTube, who has its own different style of targeting, but then you have Google Search, Google Video, and then Google Shopping. Within each of those, you need to make sure that, okay, if we're just going to sell the certain product, we want to tailor that campaign to that. So the shopping campaign could be the entire site, but it could also just tailor or be specific towards the Ford bumper. So I think a lot of it comes down to knowing what your client needs, writing the right outline for it, getting it approved, talking to the art team, because creative is a huge piece to this, especially from the meta side, because it's so visual. And majority of the people look at the creative, regardless if there's copy or not, on the headline or the description. They may not read it at all. They may just see the graphic and call it a day and go straight to the landing page. Talking to the creative team, whether it's Morgan or Michael, and then working on the ad groups and the ads and then in the weeds of it. So I think working that way is perhaps my engineering mindset, but step by step and making sure all those bases are covered before we get into it is probably the best way to approach it.
Got it. So let's talk about the funnel for a minute, because there is this sort of like discovery awareness, like you kind of go through these stages, or the consumer goes through these stages of first kind of thinking. So like you used a bumper analogy earlier, so we'll use that analogy. So if someone buys a new pickup, because I think SEMA has some research that says that most aftermarket purchases are made within a certain period of time of a new vehicle purchase, which makes sense, right? Unless you're fixing something or solving a problem. Most people do their mods when they first acquire something, whether it's new to them or new. So they say, okay, maybe they don't even know they want a bumper. They just want to mod it. So where would they start? That in that case, they'd probably start on Google, right? How does that work? And then once they say, oh, okay, there's all these mods out there. One of those mods is maybe putting bumpers on it. And then they have to do research on what bumpers and what style and what brands. And maybe they're looking at reviews. And that's maybe when they go to social. And then they start looking at specific brands or product lines. And then they have to figure out where the best deal is to buy it. And is it in stock? And what's shipping look like? And so just kind of explain the funnel for people.
Before I get into it, I think one of the biggest misconceptions for the funnel is like having independent funnels for Facebook and Instagram. They work hand in hand. So anything related to the site is always going to be on both platforms. It may be on Facebook, it may be on Google, it will be on both. But as every project starts, Google comes in, right? So you want to look at F-250 bumpers.
You said Facebook and Instagram, but you mean Meta and Google.
Sorry.
Right?
Yeah, Meta and Google.
So it's an integrated funnel for both. They're not separate.
Correct. Yeah, they're on probably like each ends of the tip. So you got both of them here. Everything starts with the Google. You Google F-250 bumper, front bumper, and the ads pop up, right? You get the carousel of ads. That's the shopping campaign from Google. Very important to set up. Let's say you click one of those, you go to the website. Now that you've been on the website, this is how you get the email tracking. This is how you get ads that you've already looked at the products for. This is how all of that starts to generate. Once you clicked on that landing page for that F-250 bumper, then this tracking now knows. So you have the Facebook pixel, which is the Facebook side of tracking, and the Google tag, which is the Google side of tracking. So once that sees that you've clicked on this page and you're scrolling around, clicking on the product, maybe you've added to cart, you will then get put into these separate audience pools. Like you're a web visitor or an add to carter, you'll get separate ads if you're doing the remarketing properly. So the way to do it is, right, you got the awareness is Google search. You work your way down to the intent. So you're in the traffic stage where you've clicked on the website. You're now in their ecosystem. Now that you've clicked there, and if you have not purchased, then you get into the whole remarketing conversion side of things. So now you're in the middle of that funnel, right? You're aware of the product. You know you want it, or at least you know you want something of this nature. You click away from it. And then boom, you get hit with an ad while you're just scrolling to Facebook of that same product. And then you get pushed down that funnel into the remarketing side. So now that you visited, you get another ad because you haven't purchased. Then you get this second one that the goal of this one is to then purchase or complete that funnel. So you got the awareness from Google search, you got that traffic or higher intent now because you visited the landing page, and then you get hit with that retargeting, which is to close the deal. So that's like the 3 basic steps of this funnel of how it would work. It can work in multiple different ways, whether it could be just Facebook, and if you can just see a video ad of that bumper and work your way down, but this is how generally most searches end up going.
Got it. So it is an integrated So once they figure out, okay, I want a bumper, maybe I want an AFN bumper. I've been to the website, I didn't buy it. You're going to start showing me those ads all over the place on the Google Display Network for the actual bumper I didn't buy. You're seeing people talk about it and review it on Instagram or on Facebook. How does it know when you actually completed a sale, or does it?
It does. So that Facebook pixel or Google tag is tracking you throughout the site. So each thing you click on is called an event. And once you've purchased it, you then get categorized into the purchase pool, right? So you got that site visitor pool when you visited. If you add it to cart, you get put into that audience group. And then when you hit purchase, if set up properly, you will not get another ad for about 30 or 60 days.
Are there platforms that you think are either really popping right now, or that you're skeptical of, or that you see waning?
I mean, Facebook and Google always are going to be the top 2 in terms of best performers. I mean, they're the most used. TikTok is a close third. I think that one, it depends on your product, but in general, TikTok as a platform, I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. I know they have a bunch of scares of getting removed or deleted. Now that I think they've cemented themselves in here and won all those cases or whatever that was happening with them. I think it's good depending on the product you have. I mean, it's very Gen Z, for lack of a better word. I mean, you can't go selling $10,000 suspension kits for a 69 Camaro. It's just not the right audience, but it is there. I think an up and coming platform is AI. I know we'll get into it later, but with ChatGPT and the ability to just search in the Google search bar and then it just goes straight to ChatGPT website instead of the search result, which is also crazy. So I think once they monetize that, because it would make sense to monetize this because it is slowly combating Google in terms of search results and where people are getting their information from. I think that is probably the next wave or the new generation of search and ads and all of this stuff.
And so far, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a way to do sponsored results or content in AI yet.
Not ChatGPT or Gemini.
I'm sure they'll find a way to put ads in there somehow.
That's how you're going to make a bunch of money.
I think they're doing just fine as is.
Fair enough.
There's an expression that's been around forever, creative is king, or content is king. How important is creative today when it comes to paid marketing, paid digital?
98% creative. I mean, creative will take up the most amount of real estate on your screen. The text is about this big. The creative is about yay big, and then you get a tiny headline, barely a sentence. So I think the creative is key or king because you're able to explain what you're selling through it, whether it's a static ad or a video. And then you get into the whole debate of static and video ads, right? You want to have both ideally, but they both have different purposes. But the reason creative is so important is that's how you get your first impression of the brand or the product or the service. So in that regard, I think creative needs to be the number one and the most amount of attention and effort put towards, whether it's going to be your strategy or talking to your creative team or agency, just working with them. It's not like everyone will know all the answers. It's great to bounce ideas off each other. So I think just having the right recipe for the right creative for the product is the key to a successful ad.
One of the things that we pitch here at this agency is that we have sort of a different model when it comes to digital marketing, and that you will, generally speaking, have enthusiasts touching your account, from building out the DM accounts like you guys are doing, to the creative. Our creative director has like a drift car and a Trailblazer SS, and most of our account team members have some sort of performance vehicle. I mean, we're a company full of car people. Do you think marketers who don't actually know the product are going to be as effective, or are they missing something?
Yeah. I think even if you don't have knowledge in the subject, but at least you're taking an initiative to learn, that is a step in the right direction. But having people that are already in it do it day to day. That is their hobby. I mean, I've done so many different random car projects and use so many different products for whatever we're working on with my friends. I think it's really helpful to understand the purpose or the need for certain things like tools or detailing products, or why one product is better than the other, or quality wise in terms of like a cheap versus a really high-end product. So I think having that, but the entire team experiencing all that to whatever degree that we're experiencing, whether we're in it deep, like Sean and I are building race cars, or, someone's overlanding with Michael and Josh, like I think having all the different aspects is really helpful, because I may not know everything about overlanding, but I know an unhealthy amount about race cars. So I think having that experience or that hobby like Josh and Michael have, we're able to like utilize all of it and put it into one. So having that is just helpful in general. We're able to pick it up right off the ground really quick. We're able to understand the product before we're even like using it, or if they don't have to ship it to us so we don't have to understand it, we can get the item or the service or the event. Like Laguna has their IndyCar coming. We know a lot about race cars. We love race cars until it hits our wallet. And then we can start doing the event because we know what we like. So I think it's really helpful to have the people that are working with you for your company also in line with the same hobbies that you have.
So what you're saying is it's sort of, it's a psychology thing. You understand the mindset of not only the client, but the consumer.
Yeah, because if you don't, then you don't know what those people are looking for. I mean, it is a psychology thing. And if it sounds weird or not, you want to be in everyone's brain, understanding how they think, what they're looking at in particular. There's certain call outs that people think are good versus bad. So having that knowledge already there is a good head start or a jump start.
We've seen a shift in how enthusiasts actually discover brands. What excites you about where things are headed, and what makes you worried?
I think ChatGPT or AI in general is a huge unknown. I think everyone's trying to figure it out, whether it's a service, whether it's a platform to search where you're going to go eat. I think that is a big unknown that's coming in to where everyone's quickly trying to get it in the known, just understanding it as it comes, because it's going to be ever evolving. No one's ever going to fully understand it. It's just like the Instagram algorithm. It'll change every week. So I think that will be really exciting to learn, because it's nice to learn something new, and otherwise things get a little stale. Because like once you figure out Facebook and Google, there's always things to grow and learn. But having a whole new platform is like, what is going on here, and how can we maximize this?
Okay. That's an interesting one. Well, speaking of AI, what's your take on AI generated creative in advertising? Is it an opportunity? Is it a risk?
Yeah, I mean, AI creative, I've seen it on ads. It's the reason I laugh. It's great to use as a jumpstart or a tool in order to create your final product. I don't think it's there quite yet as a final product. I mean, there's always going to have creative roadblocks. I mean, we're writing copy 6 hours a day sometimes. I know the art team's obviously making their graphics and their video, so naturally it's going to happen, which is the reason AI is really helpful to create ideas or plans or different concepts that we want to use. So it's also nice to have a visual for the art team. Let's say we want to create something, but we're not artsy people. I don't know how to use photo. I can Google, I can figure out Photoshop, but it's going to take too long. So ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever platform, I can say, hey, I want to do a CSL trunk on my M3, and we want to point that out as a highlight for Vorsteiner, then we can do that. So we can just type that in ChatGPT. It may not have an actual M3, but Morgan and the team will get a good idea of what we're envisioning, and they can give us their feedback, say if it's good, if it's bad, or anything in between.
That's a good point. And I know our art department uses it for ideation and storyboarding and stuff all the time. But yeah, I think we've both seen brands that are using a little too much AI in their creative, and it's pretty clear.
Yeah, and with copy too. I mean, it's great to have new ideas for the same product for different companies. Maybe they have some slight variation in them. I think it's nice to have a fresh set of, I guess, digital eyes, but eyes in general. Maybe you didn't think about a certain way to word or phrase something, and AI figured it out for you, and you can weave that into your copy. I would never rule it out. I would use it as a tool. I think that's probably the best thing to do, and it definitely picks up and speeds up all your processes.
So I've been in the aftermarket a long time, and I would say it's not untrue to say that our industry tends to maybe lag a little behind in terms of some of the other industries out there in terms of marketing trends, entertainment industry, food industry, fashion, things like that. I'm not sure if you agree or not. But where are we still getting it wrong as an industry?
So I think because fashion leads the trends for the most part is why they're always at the forefront of it. Automotive industry is pretty big. I mean, you got a lot of huge companies in here, and the bigger the company you are, it feels like the harder it is to pivot or move. it's like an aircraft carrier versus like a tiny boat or a jet ski. I think if they were able to follow the approach of like whatever these hype brands are, like Lululemon or like not Supreme, it's a bad example, but like any of these big brands that are making changes in the lifestyle game would be a smart way just to look at. I mean, you see 7-Eleven and like Yokohama commenting on random stuff and just like memeing on people, and it's not something that's ever traditional. Like I saw something on Instagram threads or something where it was like Domino's just adding Pizza Hut for no reason, just starting it. So I think companies that are engaging with their audience is new, but also refreshing, because majority of people can't relate to a business owner or a giant corporation like Domino's. So I think the fact that they're able to get into the comments and like start engaging with the audience is a huge play. And I feel like the automotive industry needs to follow that. And, it's not all that serious. At the end of the day, Instagram and Facebook are social platforms, and people love memes. We want to make people smile, not be like, oh, great, here's another ad or here's another organic post. You want to be like, oh, I wonder what Yokohama or whoever posted today. I think pivoting like that, just being more relatable, just taking the ease off of things or putting the ease into things would benefit a lot of brands in just like a community aspect.
Nice. Okay. I like that. How do motorsports and automotive aftermarket media and even marketers, what do they need to do right now to evolve, to adapt to what's happening out there? What are you seeing that maybe isn't happening that needs to happen?
I think Drive to Survive has helped a lot with motorsport in general. I think
storytelling.
Yeah, people have seen the same stuff. There's a bunch of aftermarket wheels. There's always aftermarket aero, whatever it's going to be, bumpers. But I think explaining the company or the story behind the business is something that's newly coming out, and people are more excited about learning, because at the end of the day, everyone can see a different metal bumper 1,000 times. But I think the way that the company explains their story or explains how they created themselves or wanted to create the product, whether it was for just like a dad in the garage who wanted to go overlanding and kept messing up his bumpers and created his own, I think that is the biggest key to starting and like bringing yourself out. I think it comes back to being more relatable to the consumer, because not a lot of people just start with everything right away. People start as just a person. Having that storytelling and portraying that and like putting it in a nice visual or a cool video or documentary, I think is a really good way of getting into the community itself, because I feel like it all starts with the community. Without the community, none of these companies would be there.
We haven't really touched on Amazon. What do you think about the distribution model online? And it seems like there's more companies selling direct to consumer. We've certainly helped, and you've certainly helped a lot of companies make that leap. I know there's some different platforms that you prefer and don't prefer. And then there's the whole Amazon thing. And then you've got multi-step. And what's your take on distribution and where that's going?
More and more businesses have been moving away from the wholesale dealer, B2B, like jobber side of stuff, and going straight to a D2C. From looking at it at an initial view, it's like, why would they be doing the B2B? But you understand it, whether they're purchasing in wholesale or stocking or whatever their storefront is going to be, that makes sense. But companies that are moving straight to consumer, I think, also tie into this whole funnel storytelling situation, where instead of buying a part from a different company, just go directly, you can get it from there. So I think in that space, it's helping these brands automatically build their brand awareness for them. Amazon's interesting. I'm definitely at fault for this too, but I will go on the internet, find like spray bottles, and then go to Amazon, buy it right there, because I know it will come in 1 or 2 days. And if I don't like it, the return is easy. I think they've really made almost every part of their ecosystem seamless and straightforward. UPS can even come to the door and pick it up. I don't fall for anyone wanting to use Amazon or questioning it. I think it's fine. But the problem comes into, if you're selling an item that isn't either a high margin or the low price point, you then get into the fact that Amazon has their fees. Amazon has to then get your product, or you have to send them product or enough product for them to then do the prime. That creates a lot of volume and a lot of upfront costs. So it really depends on what your company is, how much money you have to pour into it. It's great, but the margins are very slim. I would focus on Google Shopping and Meta, either Advantage Plus, which is the new one, which is their AI like algorithm. Focus on those two and see how things are going. Amazon's good if you have enough budget to cover all your bases, because why not? But if you don't have all that budget, then I would focus on Google Shopping and Meta, because those will get you more revenue.
As just a casual observation, it seems like there was a moment there, 10 or 15 years ago, where Amazon had buyers that were and category managers that were making a really concerted effort to bring in brand names. And for a while there, you could aftermarket, outdoor, household supplies, it doesn't matter. Like you could go on there and you were buying these like kind of well-known household brands, many of whom had like a storefront. It does not seem like that as much anymore. It definitely feels like there's a lot of these kind of brands you've never heard of that make a product that looks just like the household brand, but it's not the household brand.
Well, this is a good point because this is what's been happening more and more. Small businesses that want to get a head start, they're not graduating, but moving into another platform other than Etsy, move to Amazon. The thing is, Amazon will push them, see how their product performs. And if it performs well, what's to stop them from just making the same product?
Clone it.
Exactly. That's a good point. I totally glossed over that. But I think that is definitely something to be aware of. If your product is intricate and has certain proprietary technology, if it's like a dash camera radar, then it's going to be very hard to replicate.
Hey, man, Bezos has a lot of yacht gas to buy. So,
It's true.
That $100 million wedding isn't going to pay for itself.
Yeah, Bezos is he's doing something. He's doing something right, and some things he could do something better. But we can talk to him in a different podcast.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much because they probably host one of our websites or something. So
yeah, AWS, they're in everything.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about AI a little bit. How is artificial intelligence already impacting paid digital marketing? We know how it's impacting sort of other things, but is it having an impact on what you do for a living?
100%. We kind of talked about it a little bit where it's using AI for graphics, using AI for video, AI for copy. So it could literally run your entire campaign totally fine. There's different levels to AI for this though. Like I mentioned earlier, Facebook Advantage Plus is Facebook's algorithm that will automatically figure out the demographic, the interest, placements, location. So it can do all of that for you, and you can create the ad and you can fire that away. And so far, those have been performing really well. Sometimes not, depending on what the ad setup is. AI platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, I think those are great tools. Definitely help the DM process expedite things and jumpstart the copy or the graphic ideas so that the respective teams can start working on their tasks. It has its pros and cons. I think it's good in the ad platforms because you're able to test another thing. Maybe it makes more money. That's great. Everyone at the end of the day wants to make more money. They don't care that you're using AI. In that way, it's a benefit. I think it's also a benefit in terms of a tool and jumpstarting programs and copies and graphics and whatever. Where I think it falls short is people rely on it too much and then want to create your whole ad on AI and then just put that up and publish it. I think majority of it's good if you know how to use it right, and there's a small factor of it that's bad.
How are you guys using AI internally to speed up or sharpen campaign development?
Just jumpstarting copy ideas. It's nice to have a few other revisions to formulate it into one or two. Having the graphic ideas for the art team to review and brainstorm off of that is good. So we can give them a visual so they can be like, oh, okay, this is how they wanted, this is the placement if they want arrows or whatever. I think it's a good tool in terms of the way we're able to quickly get things moving. Obviously, we have to manually build out the structure in the campaign, but that doesn't take too long because we've done it so many times with either similar audiences or similar audience groups now that Facebook is kind of combining all those interests into a bit broader and broader categories. I think it's made us more efficient. It's made us more accurate in some regard, and it's expedited made other departments more efficient and kind of eliminated any miscommunications that may have arisen without having those visual examples.
As long as I've been doing this for a living, attribution has always been a really important part of performance media, and advertising. In fact, in the early days of my career, we used to buy a lot of print media. We would buy blocks of 1-800 numbers and we'd put different 1-800 numbers in each ad. And then we'd have a service that would track them. And you'd know, okay, this ad in this magazine performed really well and this one didn't. So we're going to kill that contract and put the money into this other one, which isn't terribly different to what you're doing now. And I know, and then for a long time, you and I and, Cameron and, Russ, when he was here, there was a lot of like Looker Studio creation, a lot of back-end kind of tracking. Is that still true in a post-cookie AI-driven world? Is attribution still a big deal?
100%. I think the whole cookie thing is been a hit or miss. I mean, they're always saying they're going to get rid of it and then postpone it another 2 years. So it's ever evolving, just like how TikTok's situation was. But attribution is very important. I mean, the same way you use the 1-800, I didn't know that that's how you guys did it. But the way you guys use 1-800 numbers is very similar to UTM links, right? So you create a unique code in the York City number and you can put that in. But what's more efficient and faster now is these Google Pixels and the Google tag. So as we click on websites throughout, like if you click on the image, it'll know you clicked on an image, or if you clicked on add to cart, it knows that. So the way things are being measured and followed and recorded are leaps and bounds different and pretty much in real time. So attribution will always be there, and I don't think it'll ever go away, whether it's in its current form because they've been reducing the amount of steps, or in its future cookies gone, we're going to have to use third-party data or different forms of data, then it'll have a different meaning or different version of it, I guess. So I think it will be there. Russ has showed us some really good ways to track certain events that may not traditionally be tracked. So we have those in our Looker Studios for clients to review. It's been helpful to build those and learn from him and see how we can expand the tracking. Because at the end of the day, the client wants to see, how is my money being spent and is it being spent efficiently? Otherwise, we're not doing a good job. I think it has just different applications. And at the end of the day, it's still helpful. It is still relevant, I guess now more than ever. But Yeah, it goes into multiple things because then it falls into audience groups. Attribution helps grow add to cart audience groups or site visitors, and I can go on and on about that. So it covers all the bases.
Interesting. Thank you. That was a really nuanced answer. Let's get into some agency real talk because I don't have an opportunity to do this very often on the show with a coworker. What's one campaign you've done where the car guy and you and the marketer and you both felt really proud?
I would say Vintage Air. And the reason I say Vintage Air, it's not the biggest budget. It's a very niche product, but also a product I'm not 100% familiar with, right? I'm more the modern sports car guy. I don't have a muscle car. I don't have a niche like a 69 Camaro, although I wish I could afford one. That campaign and paired with Rick's ability to work in tandem with us has really showed what a perfect setup would be, because that campaign has a small budget, but was extremely effective. The graphics were perfect. It explained everything the product needed to, especially how nuanced it was and how certain applications only worked with certain product types. It was like on the spectrum of complicated product, it was close to that side. But the fact that we're able to drive so much conversion value towards it has really made me excited about continuing to grow it. And not like I'm not excited to grow other campaigns, but in this example, seeing how we're able to target the right group and use the right graphic can allow us to apply that to other campaign types that are as detailed or as application specific.
I had a call yesterday, business development call with a potential client, and they had a guy on that asked a really smart question, and he literally said, like, if you think back on like the times where you guys have struggled, was there any kind of common element? And I had to think about it for a minute, and I told him the truth, which is most of the time when we struggle, and it's not often, but when it does happen, it's usually because our point of contact internally at the company is either non-communicative, hard to get a hold of, doesn't necessarily know their customer or their product. Sometimes they're new, but like we can only be as successful as the person we're working with internally at the company, because we're like an extension of their own team and culture and brand. And if you've got someone who's willing to put in the work so that we understand who your customer is, what your product is, what your differentiators are, what that kind of value proposition is, we can go execute that. But if, so every once in a while, it doesn't happen very often, we get these clients where they're like, they sign on the line and then they go like, okay, go hit the button that says sales and make the money fall out of the sky. And it's like, that doesn't work. Like, we're telling stories here and we have to connect with people emotionally. I love that the one you picked was Vintage Air because, Rick Love, their president, has been a friend as well as a client for a very long time. And he's the perfect example because that guy, he knows that company and that product and that customer inside and out. He is dialed on their customer.
Every time we have a call with them, we always have great news, but we're always asking, okay, well, what can we do more? So it's not like we can put like 100 ads into it. It's not going to help anything. But Rick is like, okay, well, we have this new content for the C10 or Datsun Z car that we're going to do with Sung Kang's car now. We're doing an ad for that. He's like, this I think would perform really well. And I'm like, thanks, Rick. This would perform really well. And we can go ahead and make that. It's like the ability to bounce ideas and not being afraid to, I think is a barrier that we've experienced just in client relationships. So seeing someone break that barrier has been refreshing and really helpful because it's a team effort at the end of the day. It's not like if we can make everyone $1 million, then we would make everyone $1 million.
No, you nailed it. It's a partnership and it's got to be treated like a partnership. That's great. Do you think other clients in this space understand their audiences as well as they think they do?
No, I don't think so. I feel like some companies that become really big used to know what their audience was like. And as they've scaled up, good for them. They've made this much money and they've been able to grow so much. But I feel like they've lost touch with who their core audiences was. And I feel like that's where the disconnect starts to happen. I feel like no matter how big you grow, like what Scott was saying during our all hands, the last one we've had, these big companies forget how to pivot like a small company does. And I think that really falls into play with a lot of these companies that lose the whole sight of their core audience or who their audience used to be and who their fan base was.
Well, certainly on that in the aftermarket, and I think in other industries, there's a lot of merger and acquisition activity, especially with private equity. And when you start mashing different kind of somewhat related companies together with different cultures and different customer bases, and you're kind of mushing them all together, and then you bring in some outside people to run the whole thing. And I think you're right. It is easy for those brands to lose sight of who brought them to the dance in the first place, which is their kind of core customer.
The perfect example could be Hoonigan. I mean, I know they didn't really sell a specific, like a physical product, but
they sold shirts and
right. Yeah.
You mean the when Wheel Pros rebranded as Hoonigan?
Right. Yeah. So like that whole situation, growing up during the Ken Block days and like him doing the craziest shit, like drifting half of way off Pikes Peak into that Mustang thing. I think seeing that made me like, wow, I would love to have a cool car like that one day. But then that whole community that they've built, because I feel like they sold more emotion than anything. And growing up in that world and seeing it fall apart was extremely sad, because having those little stickers on my car, the t-shirt that just said Hoonigan, what meant a lot to a lot of us like car people, and seeing that just disappear was sad. So I think that was it's a big case, but I think a case that falls in this category.
What advice would you give to a brand leader who wants to be more effective in paid digital marketing but doesn't know where to start?
I think it starts from seeing where you're at and where you want to be. So you want to figure out, what are we doing that's making us X amount of revenue? And the goal of 5 or 10 years or whatever it is X amount of revenue, or whatever the goal is. I think in between there is figuring out what are the right steps to get there. And if you don't know how to get those steps, 1, you can consult with an agency. 2, you can consult with your friends or other businesses. I feel like most businesses are there to help each other. There's enough fish in the sea, or whatever the phrase is, food for the fish or whatever. Writing out everything that you want to achieve, I think, is important, because if you don't write that down and you forget about it and you go talk to someone with that experience, or perhaps have those keys to your answer, you won't be able to balance, because maybe you were right. You just didn't know. You needed that validation to make sure you were there. So I think writing out the steps from A to Z, saying, okay, I need an outline, a campaign, I need a creative team, I need this. And then being, okay, can I write an outline? Maybe you can refer to ChatGPT, write me a marketing outline, and then review that, and then go talk to an agency or someone with some expertise. I think you have so many tools these days to give you a head start, where you can take those tools and arrive to a company that knows what they're doing and provide that to them, whether it's good or not. Then you can go from there. I think with AI, having all that information will then give you that tool to start. So hopefully that answered that question.
That's a blueprint. Thank you. All right, we're going to do some rapid fire. You ready?
Yeah.
Manual or DCT?
Well, we got the Lord's transmission. Manual.
Okay. Favorite racing series right now?
I would say Formula One, but World Endurance Championship is really coming up there right now for me.
I agree. It looks like Rolex agrees too, because they're sponsoring it now.
Well, they make fantastic watches, so.
Yes, they do. Dream build budget, either 25,000 cap or unlimited.
Well, unlimited, I would just buy a McLaren P1 GTR. Yeah, McLaren P1 GTR is like my forever, like end game car. Anything below that, an Evo. I don't care about anything else. Or a C6 ZR1, actually. You know what? Those have been that America.
Yeah, buddy. Now we're talking. Okay. I was just talking about that the other day to Corey. My dad had a C6 ZR1 for like a hot minute. And I like the C7. The C8 doesn't do it for me. That C6 ZR1 is so cool. Corey and I took his to a client meeting. We definitely broke the law on the way home, and it was intense. It was fun. That's a great one.
Yeah, I think that car is just it's not the most refined thing, but it is a damn fun car to drive or be in.
Most overhyped platform right now?
I would say Porsche. I know it's going to piss everybody out. I love a GT3 RS or GT3 or whatever, but I feel like everyone just hops on the GT3 RS train and just forgets about every other car. And they've done their work. They're fantastic cars, but I don't know, I just feel like everyone just thinks Porsche because they just don't know anything about it and what makes a GT3 RS so good. I think that's why.
You can use the 25-year rule to bring one car in overseas. What are you bringing in?
Oh, shit. Oh, man. Oh, 25-year rule? You're asking a lot from me here because that's the entirety of Japan.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. This is not going to be a rapid-fire answer here. I would say NSX, but...
It's hard to beat an NSX.
It is. It is. I mean, I default to Evo, but I feel like I got a little different here. I'd pick an S15, a Silvio. Yeah, I really wanted to build one of those into like a fun little drift car. So I think that would be my answer.
Biggest mistake you've made in your career and what'd you learn from it?
I have made a few. I think the biggest thing, and this is not recent, but just something I recently learned and was able to figure out was I was trying to keep everything to myself in terms of like tasks and like important things and not delegating them. Trusting the team that I have is something that's really important, especially having a team. Giving the responsibilities and roles to different people and not having to do them all yourselves or burden myself with all that has been a big step for me as a leader or a manager or whatever. I mean, that doesn't apply to just to here, I think just in general, because I want to do everything to make sure I know I did it right. If something goes wrong, then I have to only to blame myself and not anyone else. So I think in that space, just growing and allowing to make sure other people take on tasks. They may make mistakes, which is fine. It's part of the whole thing as I've been learning, but allowing other people to kind of spread their wings and grow just like I have.
That's a really thoughtful answer. Thank you. Well, Krish, appreciate your time, your insights. It's always a pleasure getting to chat with you, and I miss seeing you every day, but I'm glad you're living that no income tax life in Nevada. So thanks for coming on. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, you can email me at my work email, Udvadia at Kahn Media, or you can text me, you can message me on Instagram, you can FaceTime me. I don't care. You can just text me before you FaceTime me though. But yeah, you can do whatever. Yeah, or even go to just info@Kahn Media and we can route it right to Krish. No big deal. Yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of people messaging me, so Katie can filter all those people out for me. Krishan Udvadia, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for everything you do at Kahn Media.
Thanks for being a great human. We appreciate you. And that's it for today's episode of Only the Strong Survive. If you liked what you heard, subscribe and drop a review on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.